Hey, Wixman Ray here. We're doing our weather around the world. Check this out. So this is a combined goes east and goes west. These are the names of the satellites that the United States has put up over the equator. I think the west sits somewhere over the equator in this general area. I don't know exactly. And the goes east is somewhere in this area. Um, I don't know exactly, but it's over the equator in those general areas. So anyway, so that's why you get this view. So yeah, so this is the Pacific Ocean out here. There's Hawaii right there. So it looks like Hawaii's got nice weather. Um, the Gulf of Alaska, there's a big low moving up into the Gulf of Alaska. So let's talk about the weather. This is like an infrared type image. So but in different colors here. So a big low pressure really spun up in the Gulf of Alaska there. Well, it's not technically not in the Gulf of Alaska yet. That's kind of farther north, but it's moving that way. Um, looks like there might be a little system up in Alaska, but this is such a wide image, it's hard to tell. This is where Kamchatka is. Actually, that's over here. You can barely see it. This is part of Russia, the very edge. And this is the Aleutian Islands. Looks like you got a system. So let me kind of show you. So the jet stream's kind of running across up from Japan. Japan's off the map here. And you kind of got it kind of coming down and then it dips down south and then comes back up into this low because you got a front kind of stretching down towards Hawaii. Not doesn't quite make it to Hawaii, but you can kind of see it right there. There's a frontal system, a cold front. And this is the cold air back behind it. So you kind of got a jet that does this kind of thing. It'll usually shoots right up through this dry slot, and then the jet will kind of come up and over, and there's the ridge. That's that ridge we were talking about over the west coast, and then the jet kind of comes down here through Canada, kind of southeastward, and then dips across the northern part of the U.S. and then kind of stretches up here. We won't go into all that, but yeah, that's kind of what it's doing. Looks like we got a tropical system of some sort out over the Pacific. Looks like this is north of. These are those islands up north of Indonesia, I think, and I think Indonesia is actually a little farther to the west, but uh, I don't know if we'll see. Yeah, there's the edge of Australia, so there might be another little tropical system here trying to develop. So this is the intertropical convergence zone, as we call it, or it's got other names too. But this is where the winds from the southern hemisphere meet with the northern hemisphere, and you kind of get a area of thunderstorms in certain areas. So looks pretty active through this general area, south of Hawaii and to the southeast of Hawaii, and then a couple maybe that looks like that's probably a named storm, and we'll take a look. Um, down here, looks like there's a frontal system moving across or towards New Zealand. That's New Zealand right there. You got to remember now, they're in their fall season, so they're going from fall into winter. It's probably roughly, I don't know, what, like October, what we would have in October, sometime around then down there. So just kind of gives you a point of reference. And then you got another frontal system, and they kind of look backwards here because in the southern hemisphere the low pressure spin counterclockwise. So yeah, yeah. So that's what's going on. This is South America. So you got a front going through. I don't know if that's part of Brazil there. I don't remember, or if that's Uruguay, Paraguay. I don't remember which, or Argentina. I can't remember which country's which without seeing the political boundaries. And then you got your tropical stuff going on across the northern part up near the Amazon area. So, yeah, that's what all this is. Is what we call the convection, the showers and thunderstorms out here. And then this is the Atlantic Ocean. And we've got a couple disturbances out over the water here, but nothing brewing in the Atlantic. They're predicting an El Nino this year, I think through the summer. So if that happens, which I think they're talking about happening, then that typically suppresses the tropical activity across the Atlantic. So, and last year we had a kind of quiet year. So if typically you have a quieter tropical season when you have El Nino because of the southern jet stream kind of influences it. And yeah. Okay. Yep. And then you got that's Spain there, so Europe's kind of off the map, but you got looks like you got a low pressure and frontal system moving across there. And there's that one I told you about moving off the east coast. So that's kind of what's going on, the broad big picture, some fronts across the southern hemisphere. So, yeah, let's switch gears here and show you something else here. Let's go find I think this is the one for the Europe. Here we go. The Met Prime. So we're seeing this. We're looking at Africa here. Let me do this into an image. So there we go. So yeah, you got some. You got these. They call them easterly waves going across Africa. So you get these complexes of thunderstorms. That's what these are. You're seeing one here, one probably in the west here, maybe a little bit of one there. That's more associated. There's a front coming through northern Africa, so this is probably influenced by with this front, and a low pressure up over the Mediterranean there near those islands of is that Corsica? Can't remember. Yeah, look at that one. This is the Azore Islands out here. So that low pressure is dipping just to the east of the Azores, and a pretty powerful low pressure and frontal system moving towards Spain and Morocco. Morocco's right up in this general area. So yeah, and then you got the Middle East here. This is Saudi Arabia. So it looks like we got some clouds going towards Iran. This is Iran back here. So hope they resolve that crazy situation over there. You don't want to hear my opinion on that. That's a whole freaking fiasco mess, and you don't even want to hear it. You probably feel the same way, especially the way it's messed up, caused these gas prices to shoot up. They've gone up to 4.29 here in Kansas City area. They were 3.49 when I got here like a month ago, and before that they were like like $1 less. So they've gone up a good $1.50. I hate to see what they're out west. They are out in Elko. When I left Elko, they were at already at 4.29, so they're probably close to $5 out there. Anyways, I won't get into that anymore. Another little frontal system going through Eastern Europe. It looks like this is Italy. This looks like this is Poland up here and in that general area. So it's kind of moving into the Eastern Bloc countries too, towards Russia. So yeah. Yeah, that's what's going on there. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say about that one. Let's look at one more image here. Let's do two more. Is this the one I wanted to? I think I showed you this one. Yeah, I wanted to show you. Is this the Tibetan? So yeah, so you can see the Tibetan plateau underneath this. Here, let's change this. So you can kind of see how underneath all these clouds it's lighter colored. That's because this Tibetan, yeah, this is where the Tibetan plateau is actually back through here. Let me get a different image here. Sorry about this, guys. We're just kind of winging it as we go. The Met 10, I think will. I don't want the visible though. It's nighttime over there. Let's do the IR. Not that one. Is that the right one? Yeah, this is what I want. Yes. So there's the Tibetan plateau. See how it's wider through all this area? This is the Himalayas, I think, through this area. India's down here. And then you have the Tibetan plateau. The average elevation out there, I looked this up a while back, is around 15,000 feet. Can you imagine that? That's like being up at the like at the top of Pikes Peak or something, I don't know, or close to the top of Pikes Peak, and that's the average elevation for that whole plateau, and it stays cool out there. I mean, now it's getting to be May. It's May out there, it's springtime, but still probably kind of cool out there. But Yeah, you see the surrounding area, very warm, warm north of it. So, anyways, yeah, let me do that into a little loop so you can kind of see it because it won't move. It'll just sit there. Yeah, see how it just outlines the terrain there. Pretty cool, huh? That's a to me that just amazes me, that whole plateau. Now this here is those mountains. This is Afghanistan, and so Afghanistan sits in this general area. Those are those high mountains in Afghanistan. Remember when they were hunting for Bin Laden? Yeah, these are part of those high mountains. They extend a little bit down towards Pakistan. Pakistan's down in this general area. Anyways, yeah, just a little tidbit, but you can see that's on infrared since it's nighttime over there in that part of the world. Actually, the sun's probably starting to come up somewhere over there. Um, but yeah, in fact, let's see what our visible looks like. It'll probably, yep, there it is. See, there's that last image. You see, it's starting to, so the sun is starting to come up out there, at least for India and the Tibetan Plateau. So, yeah, so it's becoming morning over there since it's pretty late at night here. Yep. So, okay, we'll turn that off. That's kind of crazy. Anyways, so that's what's going on there. Last but not least, I wanted to show you Alaska because I love Alaska. I lived up there. Let's see if I can get the right image here. Let's go to this one. That's the United States. Here we go. Let's see if we can get the full disc. Will probably be good enough. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's that low pressure moving up into the Gulf of Alaska, and you got Alaska up here. Actually, I have a better image over here that I can use. I think it's on here on the west. Here we go. Yeah, is it this one? Maybe that's similar. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Gives you a different perspective, but yeah, that's not exactly what I wanted. I think, is it? Oh yeah, the continental sector. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, so this is our infrared. Let's see if they are still light up there. Oh yeah, so this is our visible image because they're a couple hours ahead of us right now in time zone. They're like I think 3 hours ahead of Central Time or 3 or 4 hours. I can't remember right off the top of my head. So there's that big low, but yeah, there's a lot of clouds up going across Alaska. Let me uh let me get a different view here and see if this helps. Okay, this helps. Yeah, this is that RGB. This is really useful in Alaska. See all that green? That's where the snow is, especially up across the north. This up here is like low fog or stratus up here across the northern part of Alaska here. Um, Fairbanks is in this general area somewhere out in here. Because here's the Alaska Range. That's where they used to call it Mount McKinley, but now it's called Denali. I think Trump tried to change it. I don't know what they call it now, but Denali. Yeah, it was Mount McKinley years ago, back in the day when I was growing up. But yeah, so all this green, that's snow. There's still some snow, but this is the breakup time of year. But I just wanted to show you that. So yeah, look at all that, man. There's still a lot of snow up here in Siberia. And that's the ice up there across the Arctic. You can see the ice underneath where there's not clouds. Yeah, so got some snow back here in the Northwest Territory still. Got some snow. These are on the mountains mostly. It looks like the we drove through this. The Alaska Highway kind of runs through this general vicinity. I think something like that. Not exact, but somewhere to that effect. The Alaska Highway. This is British Columbia. This is the Yukon right here, this province. I guess they call it a province. Yeah, I think this is the Northwest Territories. I think that's what that's called. And this is the Yukon. And this is British Columbia. And this is Alberta, I believe. Yeah, but I drove down through there about close to this time of year, May, early to mid-May, I think. And yeah, it was still a little chilly up here. There was still a little bit of snow up in the northern part, but as you get farther south, it was actually pretty pleasant. And the sun, this time of year, the sun is up till about 11 o'clock at night. So this these long days, you start seeing them up there. That's why you saw the visible side, the visible all the way up into the north, way up into northern Alaska, up near the north. They call that the North Slope up here, I think, is what they call it. But anyways, yeah, I spent a few years in Alaska, so I loved it, but could not deal with the winters all the time. They kind of be a little long and depressing. They basically go from October to April. May is breakup season, so it's amazing. So I'm talking a lot here, but I'm just telling you about Alaska. But like the beginning of May, that's usually when all the snow goes bye bye. It melts pretty quick, and then within I would say 2 to 3 weeks, so by like late May, it goes from like muddy. So all the snow melts and it gets muddy, and the trees are still kind of dark because there's nothing on them. But by the end of May, everything's lush green. I mean, goes from almost winter to summer within a month up there. It's amazing. Um, just for your general information, if you ever want to go visit up there, especially like the Anchorage area, a lot of people go to that Anchorage area, which is Anchorage sits right there in that little tip. This is the what do they call this inlet? This is the Turnagain Arm, this part, and this is the Cook Inlet, this whole thing, and this is the Matanuska River comes through here. I forgot what they called that little arm. I'm having a brain fart. But anyways, the valley kind of sits in through the Matt Valley, as they call it. The Susitna Valley kind of goes up this way, north south, and then Matt Valley is kind of east west. That's where Wasilla is. That's kind of the second most populous area, and it's bigger than Fairbanks. Fairbanks is probably the third largest behind Wasilla and Anchorage. Wasilla is growing a lot because there's no place to grow in Anchorage, and so they've been building a lot of houses out here in the valley. Anyways, I'm getting deep in the weeds about Alaska, but it's a cool place. The place I love to live though is Eagle River. It kind of sits between Wasilla and Anchorage. Anchorage I don't really like that much. It's a city and has all the amenities, but there's a lot of homeless problems there. Just don't like it that much. But I loved Eagle River. It's nestled in this valley by the beautiful mountains. Yeah, that's the place to live. If you go to Alaska, go to Eagle River if you can. And no crime, beautiful area. Yeah, the best place in my opinion. All right, so I'm getting deep in the weeds here. Let's go on. Let's look at the observations. So let's go up to Alaska. And that's it. We'll call that our weather thing. Oh, I did want to show you the current storms. So yeah, 45 degrees. This is Anchorage right here, Anchorage International Airport. It sits right on the. So this is the Turnagain Arm right here, the Cook Inlet, and then whatever the Matt River runs into whatever this arm is called. I can't remember now. But it's 45 degrees. So and it looks like it's rainy. You know, got rain coming up through the inlet here this is a Kenai down here. This is the Kenai Peninsula down in this whole peninsula is called the Kenai Peninsula. This is where Seward is. Recommend going there. You can take um, like boat tours and you know excursions into these little what do they call these? These they're not called fjords over there. Maybe they're called fjords, whatever they're called. And you can go up and see the glaciers and see all the wildlife. Go like in June or July. Those are probably the best months. Um, as you get into July and August and September, that's the rainy season. So June's probably the best month to go, in my opinion, in the summer for this part of Alaska. If you go to the interior, it's a lot hotter. It gets up to near 90 at Fairbanks. You know, if they got to 90, I think 90 is a record high ever at Anchorage. I think it had happened like a year or two before I was there. But anyways, we're getting deep in the weeds. This is where Whittier is, or Portage actually, Portage Glacier. Whittier sits over here, and you can take tours and go up into these little fjords and stuff. So yeah, that's the Portage Glacier. There's a little glacier. You can hike up to a glacier there. You can drive down from Anchorage down I think this is called the Seward Highway. This is Valdez over here, 39 degrees, so still a little chilly out there. So some unsettled weather. Another place to go. This is where King Salmon is, King Salmon Airport. There's a volcano. What's the name of that volcano? I'm having a brain fart. There's a volcano that erupted, I think it was 1912, and there's still ash, that feet and feet of ash from that volcano that exploded. And every time the winds blow strong from the northwest, they go over Kodiak Island. That's this here. This is Kodiak City right there. Kodiak Airport sits right there. PDAQ or PADQ, I should say. But yeah, but go. You can fly into King Salmon and go see the bears in the summer feeding on the salmon on the river. There's webcams. You can look it up. Just do a Google search of the bears eating the salmon or something. I forget the name of the place now. Gosh, it's been a couple of years, so my brain's starting to fade. And then they have the land of what is it called? The 10,000 Smokes or whatever it's called down here. Yeah, you can take a tour down there and see what happened after the volcano exploded. I think it's called the land or something about the 10,000 Smokes or something like that. One of these days I'll look it up and report back to you on this and give you a little more on Alaska. But yeah, this is this is this is Adak Island. This is or no, that's Atka. Adak sits Adak's right here on this island. This used to be an old Navy base. There's a couple people. They closed down the base and there's base housing there. There's a few people that live there in the old base housing. But I think there's like one flight a week that goes out there I think it's from Dutch Harbor or Anchorage or someplace. I can't even remember. That's Dutch Harbor. That's where I think that's one of the alternates for the big jets to go to. They have a pretty long runway, if I remember right. Cold Bay is up here. That's a part of the Alaska Peninsula. The Alaska Peninsula goes right to here to this island. And then these are all called the Aleutian Islands. So. Yep, this is Adak. No, is that Adak? No, that's Dutch Harbor. This is Atka, and this is Adak. And then Shimia is out here. There's still an Air Force base or some sort of military thing. They still got Air Force out there. A few people. It's not as big as it used to be back in the day, but yeah. So, yep. This is the Aleutian Islands, and then this is the Russian Islands. I don't even know what they call them. This is out in the Bering Sea. This is St. Paul Island. I think they also have like one or two flights that go out there a week, but sometimes it's hard to get in and out of there because they have to. They fly in the small aircraft, and if the ceiling, the clouds are lower than a certain height or the visibility is below a certain value, they can't take off or land. So we would send our maintenance guys out there because we have a radar there and some other weather equipment there, and they would get stuck there sometimes for a day or two or a week or whatever. And there's not much out there on St. Paul Island. A lot of wildlife. Beautiful island, I hear. Never been there myself, but yeah. So, anyways, that's that. This is another island. I forget the name of this island. Yeah. And then yeah. Anyways, okay. We'll have more of a Alaska lesson later. This thing got kind of long. I got sidetracked on all kinds of different stuff tonight. That's what happens when I'm tired. It's almost 10:30 here. It's late at night, but hey, I don't have to get up early. So, anyway, so yeah, that's Alaska for you. They have Just so you know, Middleton Island right here, they got a radar right there. That's why you see this. The radar is picking all this up. That's why you can see that. And then they have a radar on the Kenai Peninsula. It's just north of that Kenai. I think it sits right up in here. That's the radar for Anchorage area. Um, is there another radar? I can't remember. I think that's the main one for that area. And I know they have one up in Fairbanks too. I think yeah, it'll cover. This is Talkeetna. Not much there, but that's Talkeetna. They're getting some moderate rain. Valdez. This is Cordova. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in Alaska. I love it. I didn't get to do half of what I wanted to out there, but yeah, this is what they call South Central Alaska right here. This Kenai Peninsula, Anchorage, Wasilla, the Matt Valley. It's called the Matanuska River. It actually comes out of from over here. There's a bunch of mountains, and they get like this whole area is where some of the coastal mountains are. They get like feet, like 100, probably 100 feet of snow. They got permanent glaciers up here in this area, and so, but Matanuska Glacier, I think that's what the glacier's called. It's been melting down, but the river comes off of it, and then it eventually flows into this arm. Gosh, why can't I remember the name of that? That's really bugging me, man. So, anyways, I'll look that up another day and tell you what that arm's called. All right, we'll have a all Alaska day one day, maybe in a couple weeks, if I think about it. If I don't, give me a reminder. So hey, this is our weather around the world. We focus mostly on Alaska and a few other places, but that's because I loved Alaska and I spent a few years there. In fact, that's where I was at before I came to Kansas City the second time. This is my third time back to Kansas City. It seems like I can't escape it, but I think this is my home forever now. So, anyways, hey, appreciate y'all. This is our weather around the world. Wixman Ray out.